Hi there. Welcome to another podcast of RX10Trim Talk. This is from the RX10 studio. I would firstly like to say if you like what you hear, episodes on here in this podcast, please like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss another podcast. But aside from that, let's get into tonight's podcast. Tonight's podcast, I would like to give a shout out to at Trevs, that's at TREVLR61 for his comments. I would like to say thank you for that comment, and I will keep making these so everyone here will be entertained into the lifestyle that is the RX10 Trim channel. So above all that, from all of us at the RX10 Trim channel, I would like to say thank you. And I'm currently looking at the views on that video. Turns out we have a total of 4 views, 1 comment, and 1 like. So above that, I would like to say thanks for all the people to make that possible. Talking a lot is thirsty work. But aside from that, it is rewarding to keep these videos rolling because I'm not sure when I can make another one of these. I know in last podcast I said, well, the last episode, I was going to be doing this like every Wednesday, but I'm going to try to make these every Wednesday or Saturday or whenever I can, when I have some thoughts come through my mind. But aside from that, I think I got some insides on my mind. I've been juggling the question about what I should do for episode 2. And it hits me. I'm going to talk to you all about my stories. I know I did a recap on all my, like, who I am, what I'm about from last episode. And if you didn't see last episode, pause the video real quick, or in this case, pause the podcast. Go back to last episode of Trim Talk, and it will be right there for you to listen through. And I'll be here until you get back. So don't worry about anything. Aside from that, I was actually juggling the question about what I should do and how I should talk about my stories from my life so far. And I nailed down one thing. I'm going to start all the way from elementary school. Now, I'm going to not bore you about tests and all that. I remember 3 different trips that I took in elementary school that are near and dear to my heart. I also made a couple of friends that are probably scattered throughout the world right now. So, if any of them are listening, I would like to give them a shout out to wherever they are. So, hopefully from elementary school. Hold on. Alright. Well, where was I? Oh, right. I was going to be talking about... Alright. Well, in all due honesty, I would like to apologize for that interruption. My puppy dog, Spark, decided he wanted to bark on the podcast too. So, I'd like to apologize for that. But for where I was going to be talking to you all about the adventures that I've been through elementary school. Now, I remember 3 different trips that I've taken that still hold plenty of memory in my head. And I think I want to share it with all of you, if it's okay. Well, it's my show, so I'm gonna relate these trips to you. Now, I don't remember the exact date of this one, but I do remember we were all on a day trip to Kirchner Caverns and Bisbee Mines, somewhere north in Arizona. Now, these mines have been in Arizona since I would believe the 1800s, I would believe. But those caverns and mine, that was a glorified explore. Well, basically they were places fun to explore and also to look at. I remember we went all the way up there, and there was this big old mining excavator shovel bucket. I climbed in and I asked one of my buddies to take a picture of me in it, and it was pretty cool. We went into the caverns and all that, saw lots of stalagmites and stalactites as well, and those were pretty cool, if I do say so myself. And then we went to Bisbee Mine. The only thing that was cool enough for me was riding in the little mine cart. You get the same feeling through Minecraft, but I thought that was pretty cool too. But aside from that, that trip was pretty cool because I like anything that rides on the rails. Anyway, the second trip that I would like to talk about is the trip that we went to the Air and Space Museum somewhere here in Arizona. And that has a little bit of a story to it as well. Let's backtrack a little bit. In my elementary school days, we always had this fun club that was run by one of my buddies' parents, who thought bringing science into the school for school activity was fun. And what we actually did, it was called Space Explorers. Space Explorers was basically bringing the things from, NASA, space, and all that, and educating us kids into exploring science. It was pretty cool. I mean, one of the things, we learned about the planets, we learned about the stars, basic elementary school stuff. But what was ultimately fun was we got to build model rockets. Those were pretty cool. What wasn't cool is some of the kids in the club didn't necessarily build them correctly. I mean, they didn't blow up like in the movie October Skies, but they weren't assembled correctly. And I'll get to that in a moment. But during the club activity, we got to build these rockets, and then on the way we get to learn all about different types of this, that, and the other thing. And then when we're done, we can finally put them on a stand, and we always launch them. And they always come back down. The problem, here's where one of the problems with that begins. Because, one, we're in an open field in the school grounds. Two, we don't have it necessarily cordoned off anything. Like, we didn't have any fencing around the launch area so anybody can just walk through. Thirdly, and this is where we go back to the part where they weren't built correctly. Well, I'll go that into detail. I remember one of these things going off. I mean, it launched perfectly, no problems upon that. I think it got up to probably 1,000, maybe 100, 1,500 feet, and it was good. And my guy was like, "Yeah, man, that thing was awesome," and all that. And then I see 2, maybe 3 parachutes coming down from 2 others, and then his goes up. I'm like, "That's cool, man. How's it gonna float back down?" He's like, "What do you mean? It should come down quite quick." And then we're like, "You remember to pack the parachute, right?" He's like, "What parachute?" And then we both, me and my friend, looked at each other, and as we looked up, this thing was all the way up, and then next thing you know, it turned down right fast, like the arrow in Grown Ups, where they did arrow roulette when they launched it up in the sky, and then next thing you know, it started hurtling towards Earth. The guy at the stand sees this happening, and everyone's like, "Clear the field! Incoming rocket!" And next thing you know, we all scatter trying to find places to hunker down. One of my other friends, he trips, and this thing's coming down to him. I'm like, "Oh man, here we go." So I'm waiting for this thing to hit, right? The thing lands right in between both his knees, straight down like a guided missile. But to me, I thought the engine was gonna blow up right then and there, but it just stuck itself down like you're throwing a dart at a dartboard, trying to nail the bullseye. And I thought, this dude has to be the luckiest kid I've ever met. But aside from that, that was pretty much the coolest thing that I did in Space Explorers. And now coming back to the museum, but I'm going to take a quick short break. I'll be right back. Okay, I would like to apologize again. I don't know what's going on with my dogs tonight. I had to pause this thing for the second time, but at least we're back. Alright, so where was I? Oh, right. I talked about the Kirchner Caverns, Bisbee Mine. Then I talked about the whole thing up until now I remember where we are. We are at the part where I went to the Arizona Science Museum about the Mission to Mars simulator. That was pretty cool, I will admit. We got to do some activities in the Mars Mission Control Center, where we were doing a mission about going to Mars and orbiting it. Now, I'm pretty sure Elon Musk has that idea too, but funny thing is, when we did it, it was a simulation on Earth. And he wants to basically send people up there. And when most people don't realize when they're signing this thing, it's a one-way trip. Now, I'm not doubting him and all that. It's just I would rather stay on this planet. Nothing against him. It's just, to me, my idea of living would be on this planet. Thank you. Again, nothing to bash on him. It's just, it's a good idea. It's just, I prefer me living on this planet. But anyway, yeah, we got to experience mission control and all that, contacting the capsule and all that. Then we switched gears and we got to be in the capsule too, doing a little experiments here and there. That was fun. I wish I can have more time to experiment with that exhibit. But with all that, we have nothing but time to remember. And along with that comes the final trip that I remember too. I still remember it like it was yesterday. Okay, so we had this thing called science camp. My brother done it, and then I've done it as well, but I'm going to give you the full experience of what I remember during that camping experience. Now, most of the kids in my age had cell phones or the Game Boys or DS's and all that. And for the entire experience, we were going to Prescott Pines, where we were going to spend 3 days and 2 nights up there, and we're going to be doing science experiments and also doing basic camp activities in the woods. Now, they said no electrical devices, like, well, we can keep cell phones with us, of course. They also said nothing about Game Boys, DS's, stuff like electronic devices. But now I can say this now because it was funny. Basically, what we did was we snuck those aboard like contraband. And I mean, I think one of us actually did bring cards, so that was actually pretty cool. We got on the road, I would say not even a mile before we left the school. We had to pull over because 2 of my guys got on the wrong bus. We were a bus convoy of 2, and we were doing a head count when we got on the road, and we realized 2 of the guys got on the wrong bus. So we had to pull over, had to debus, had to get recounted back on the bus, and then we kept on the road. I must have fallen asleep during the going all the way up there because it was dark when we got on the road. And then by morning, we were like coming at the grounds of Prescott Pines. We got off the bus and we got assigned our cabins and all that. We got settled in and all that. And then we got to the to the main camp. We were doing our fun activities and all that. And then at night, now this is where it gets this is where the fun began at night. I remember the first night that we were there, counselors said lights out at like 8:30ish. When the lights went out, this is what happened with my brother. He had someone in his cabin be a lookout for the counselors if they decided to flash lights in the cabin to make sure that we were all sleeping, while the rest of the guys either played cards or read like comic books or basically did whatever kids our age did back in the day, like DS's, Game Boys, and when he saw the counselors were gonna flash the light, he basically said, "Everyone down, everyone down." So they just threw themselves back in their sleeping bags, and light went around the cabin for a few minutes. Well, yeah, it went around for a few minutes, and then it went away. And then he said, like, "All right, we're clear." And then they resumed their nightly activities, and then they eventually got tired and went to sleep. When I got assigned my cabin mates, we basically did the same thing in our cabin room too. But what I didn't realize was someone had a different motive to do. And basically, I mean, he decided to go out into the woods, and well, he got lost. And it wasn't until the next morning counselors were trying to find him. Yeah, that kid wasn't found until lunchtime. And then they had to cart him away to the medics and all that. And he had to be hospitalized for the rest of the trip. So we lost one due to injury. And I think he got a stern talking to after that while he was in the hospital. But aside from that, that was a good trip and all that. And then, I mean, none of us decided to do anything like that because one, we're in the woods, and two, if you get lost in the woods, you're basically I wouldn't say done for, but I'm gonna say that you're gonna be pretty up a creek, I would say. The polite way to say. And if I say anything other than that, then I don't know. I'm trying to keep this G rated as best I can. Maybe PG-13 a little bit. Anyway, but the second night went good without a hitch. We actually did a little bit relaxing, watched movies, like again October Skies. That was my favorite movie that got stuck in my head when I was a kid. And basically, we got a little bit of a hayride. They told scary stories around the campfire and all that. And then eventually we made it home the next day. Now, the next day, this is where it all got me pretty up in arms. Because we were waiting for the buses. We got a little bit debriefed and all that. We were hanging out. And then we were just tossing a ball back and forth. And the ball rolls down the hill. I said, "I'll get it." So I go walking down the hill. And then it hits this cabin. And then I picked up. I glanced in the window. I don't know what possessed me to do that, but I glanced in the window for a split second. I was going to bring the ball back up the hill, and I was like, wait a minute. I turn around. I peeked back into that cabin, and you wouldn't believe what I saw. I saw, okay, so you know the early 2000s, they had those game demos in the GameStops. I mean, Target still has that, and Walmart as well, the demo new games or consoles. I saw I saw PlayStation 3, or basically PlayStation 2 and 3 in there. I saw Xbox 360 game demos in there. I was like, what is this? I was like, oh my stars. I basically was in shock because they told us no games, no electronic devices of anything. And I called my buddies over to check this out, what I found. They start pressing their faces up against the glass. And they saw it too. They're like, we were told no electrical devices, so what is this stuff doing here? We were like, are you serious? We found this on the last day at camp only to find out that we weren't allowed to bring these devices up here, but here this stuff is behind a locked door. I mean, seriously? I don't know. But we were all pretty miffed. But we decided to go home and all that. It took us forever to get home because we had to actually drive through a rainstorm that was coming through. And I had this, rain coming down, and I had a full tank, so I had to go to the bathroom real quick. As I was returning to my seat, the bus had to slam on its brakes. I launched forward. I hit the aisle. I tried to grab onto something. I was like, "Ow, man!" Teacher and a student saw this happen, helped me back up. He's like, "Are you alright?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Just didn't expect a sudden stop." I was like, I thought this aisle had like pillows to prevent like collisions or something. Yeah, well, I was young. And then eventually we got back to the school, and that was basically it. That was actually one of the funnest journeys that I ever had throughout elementary school. And hopefully I can get a lot more done too. But moving on to junior high, I don't have a lot of fun memories of junior high. Not that it was bad or anything, or anything happened to me. It's just I don't have necessarily good trips that I would say that I took in throughout junior high school. But I think throughout high school, there's a couple of fun memories along that as well. But I think, looking at my watch, I think we are out of time for this episode. Stay tuned for the continuing of Throughout the Memories part of this video. This is part 1. Part 2 would be on Wednesday or possibly tomorrow. So when you come take a look through the basic channels, look for the RX10 Trim Talk, and it's the cyberpunk version of my Dodge Challenger, and what my brother used to have, his Ford Mustang, and my Bronco in the back. If you look for that, you'll surely find this episode of Through the Memories, Part 1. This has been a fun-filled episode, and again, if you like what you see, or basically hear in this episode, please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, if you have any ideas of what I should talk about next episode, please feel free to put it down in the comment section below. Anyway, we are out of time, but we will be right back with part 2 of Through the Memories. This is from the RX10 Trim channel, and I will catch you in the next episode. Alright, I will see you later. Bye.